So, hi everyone. Today we'll be discussing about the business analyst role and responsibilities, and we'll be discussing about the requirements engineering that would be happen for any IT project. And first of all, let me really explain the business analyst, what really is the business analyst and how this guy fits in the IT organization. Say, let's take an example here. Okay, so of course we know the IT projects are nothing but automating some manual process. Okay, say suppose for any store application, I mean, whenever there is a customer who purchases some goods and he's performing some checkout basically. So let's take an example of some Walmart. In this Walmart, there is one role would be there, the one person where who's kind of a clerk, and there will be one more thing, it's the product, and it has some product, I mean, has some features of that, so ID and other stuff about the product. And of course, next role going to be the customer, and of course there will be a manager on top of this clerk who can just manage it. So if I have a person, then manager will be routing that. Will be routed to the manager, and of course, once you make, then you will be getting some transaction ID. So if you really look at your bill, you will be getting all the amount, and there will be one ID generated for each transaction that each user makes. Okay, so this is a manual process. We know how the manual process really happens. Okay, so some customer, he will pick some goods. Okay, so pick some products or goods. Okay, so this product he picks from the catalog. Okay, so there is inventory where he just directly picks that one and keep it in his cart, and he will check out the cart, and once he check out, then clerk, so whoever the attendant over there will be checking out all your goods. Okay, and you will be paying at that point of time. Okay, using a credit card. Okay, and finally there is a bill, some receipt will be generated. So this receipt would be have a kind of a track of all the goods you bought it. Okay, so this is the flow, and this is the manual process generally happens. So the next step, the company is thinking is they're just trying to transform this process into an automated process. So we know automated process in the sense to online, someone can perform the same activity. So they need to build a system which reflects the same. So in order to build the system, first of all, for whoever the system for, so we know from the IT perspective, information technology perspective, there will be some technical folks who are kind of a Java, any developers basically. The platform is Java, then Java developers, and you know about the database administrators who will be maintaining the database, and some server admin, and there will be some architects, and there will be some QA folks, and there will be some other middleware team. So these are kind of technical folks basically, and who will be working on the automated version of some project. Okay, so the main intention is these guys need to understand all the responsibilities basically. So if you see here, okay, so let me get into the next slide. So we have two different sections here. The first section is talking about the business folks who in the same Walmart application there will be some clerks or attenders, and there will be some managers. Okay, and if they have any kind of, the person who is taking care about the inventory management. Okay, so who is looking at the inventory? So these guys would be called as business folks. And we have a technical folks here, as we discussed before: developer, QA, DBA, database administrator. So these guys would be the technical folks. The main intention, the main input for these folks should be, these guys, the technical folks, should understand the business. Then only they can build the system. Even though these guys know some technical capabilities, so suppose they know the language, but they don't know how this business needs to be implemented using that language. So for that purpose, there would be one role created who is a kind of a liaison, okay, who is a bridge or liaison between a business folk and a technical team. So this liaison will be gathering all the requirements from the business folk. Okay, and he will make it more formal, and he would be creating some document, say some requirement document, and this requirement document will have all the requirements. Okay, and that would be handed over to the technical team. So of course, the technical team have any questions, of course they will be get back to this guy, okay, this liaison, and this guy will respond for their questions. So this liaison is nothing but a business analyst. Okay, so this guy will analyze the client business and interview those folks, and he gather the requirements, and he will have all the requirements documented, and he hand over the document to the technical folks. Of course, this guy would be supporting the technical team whenever they need some clarifications about the business. Okay, so that's how the business role fits in the organization. So of course, the business analyst will not be technical, and this guy would be a functional basically. You should know the functionality of the application, and you should know how the real business really works. Okay, so it's not really required a business analyst should know the IT technologies. Of course, if he knows, that would be a plus. Okay, so let's get back to let's get into our requirement type. So requirements high level, there are two different requirements. So suppose we know from the highest level requirement would be the business requirement. So these business requirements are very high level and really talk about the business, okay, how this application, how the real business will require this application to be implemented, and it really talks very high level. Okay, so suppose in the same add to cart functionality, so they say the business requirement says this implemented system should be able to perform add to cart functionality. Okay, so very high level. So they say like implemented system should have add to cart functionality, and we'll be diving into the next level. So this is very high level, and we'll be diving into the next level, and we create some software requirements. So this is the next level. So they will just dive into that, and they talk more basically. So here, system should be able to perform add to cart functionality, and before that they will think, okay, what's the add to cart? So okay, then previously users should be given all the products that would be available based on his search. Okay, so suppose if we search for some HD TV, then system should able to provide the catalog and based on the availability in the inventory, so that the user will select the add to cart, and there will be one basket where the added one would be stored. Okay, so this is how actually the flow works. And before that, they will try to write down, dive into this particular requirement. Okay, so before user is navigated to the add card, so he needs to perform a search. Okay, so user can perform a search using some product ID or name. So I can say, okay, user should able to search using product name. Okay, so this is whatever the implemented system should be able to provide this particular feature for the user. So I can call this one as a user requirement. Okay, and then once you perform a search, then system should interact with its environment, with its database, and fix all the details from the database. Okay, suppose user has entered Sony HD TV, so which is the product ID search. So the system should show maybe Sony HD TV where it's common, so all the different modules that are available in the catalog. Okay, so they have a catalog if whatever the list of Sony HD TV that are available in the catalog. So basically, they will come up with the requirement called functional requirement. So functional requirement really talks about the system. The system, how the interaction would happen, system with its components. Okay, environmental components. So we can write down like system will show all items available in the database related to the search. Okay, so it connects to the database and it shows all items which are similar to the search. So wherever Sony HD TV comes, so it shows all the items. So which is called a function requirement. So I can say BRS, business requirement, would be the first part, and that can be dive into user requirements, and it can be dive into functional requirements. Okay, so user requirement talks about what are the requirements from the user side to perform his activity, and functional requirement how the system will interact with its components to perform the activity. And one more is non-functional requirement. So basically, this non-functional requirement talks about, it doesn't really talk about the functionality, and some of the indicators it's talking about is a performance or security. So suppose whenever user clicks perform a search, okay, and enter the details and click search. Okay, so the next search should be performed maybe within less than some appropriate time, maybe less than 4 seconds. So this particular constraint can be called as a non-functional requirement. Okay, so the performance comes under the non-functional. So if some requirement talks about the performance, so obviously it is talking about how soon the search needs to be completed. So which is the performance indicator. So say like over this much time that search needs to be performed, okay, or need to display the result, end result. So which really talks or called as non-functional requirement. Okay, so the next topic would be the requirement engineering. Okay, so we discussed before gathering the requirements. So, but there should be some process basically. It's not like just as simple as we discussed before, just gathering the requirement like that. So there will be some process that needs to be followed in order to finalize all the requirements and to make all the requirements formal. Okay, so that process would be called as requirement engineering. In requirement engineering, it's a process, okay, into the requirement and gather the requirement, delve into the requirement, analyze the requirement, and then document the requirement, and then validation of the requirement. So the entire process can be called as requirement engineering. Okay, so we already discussed about the business users who's gonna be providing all the requirements. Okay, so we call them as before some business users, and we talked about the clerks and managers who are working in the Walmart, because they used to provide the service whenever the system was complete manual. So they used to provide that. So we can call them as a stakeholder. Okay, so the stakeholders are, it's a huge term, collective, kind of a collection of business users, which are kind of which have the direct interaction with the application or indirect interaction with the application, or who's going to be a sponsor of that particular project. So everything going to be a stakeholder. But anyway, for now, based on our example, the clerk or manager at the Walmart, and there will be one person at the inventory who maintains the inventory in the Walmart. I can say inventory person. So these guys can be called as a stakeholder, and of course you are the BA, business analyst, who will contact these guys, have a one-on-one session. First of all, if you are really building a huge project, then you should have an idea who gives what. If I want to get maybe so-and-so functionality, I need to gather requirements of so-and-so functionality. So to whom I need to contact this guy. Okay, so that's one thing the business analyst should know. Okay, the business analyst should identify the stakeholder who is responsible for that particular functionality. And once he identifies that, and then he will set up a meeting with that guy. Okay, so and he collects all the requirements. Say here the requirements engineering process. Okay, if you have a look at this is the requirements engineering process. So the first thing would be the requirement solicitation. So nothing but gathering the requirements. Okay, so they will hold some sessions with the stakeholders. Okay, so basically they have some meetings and face-to-face meetings, and they have some chart sessions. There are different techniques out there to gather all the requirements. So these guys will basically, I can say, one-on-one meeting. So have a set of one-on-one meeting, and then they will discuss about each requirement. So of course, whenever they gather requirement, they will talk about the feasibility of the requirement. So whether it's really feasible to develop. Okay, so because sometimes the stakeholders throw some ideas, but maybe may be feasible or may not be. Okay, so because we have some restrictions for IT systems. Okay, so it's not like that easy to implement all the features that stakeholder is demanding. Sometimes it's not feasible technically. Sometimes it's not feasible as per the timeline, because every project there will be some timeline which need to be completed maybe in 3 months. But if you accept, okay, we will develop all the requirements, it's not really feasible to complete within that particular timeline. Okay, so they will have a kind of the assessment from the feasibility side. And of course, at the time of requirement solicitation, this guy, whoever the business analyst will gather the requirements. But before gathering the requirements, he must be asking questions, appropriate questions. Because stakeholder has a knowledge, but they don't know how to share that one. Okay, so maybe your IT system is not really required to know all this knowledge basically. So the business analyst should be capable of creating some questions which are really point to point, and you can get the answer for them. That would be sufficient to develop the system. Okay, so the business analyst should be ready with this question. This question is basically in order to attend in those requirements elicitation. Okay, so which is called gathering requirements. And the next step would be the requirements analysis. Okay, so in this analysis, so whenever he gathers the requirement, he don't really have that much in-depth vision about the requirement. Okay, he will just note it down. Maybe think like in the meeting there are like a 3 stakeholders are sitting and 3 folks have given like some 10 or 15 requirements. So he gathered all the requirements, but he didn't get time at that point. If he had the time and he knows that he can have some questions and get them clarified. But at the time of requirement analysis, so he will go through each requirement basically. So, the business analyst will go through the requirement and he will analyze whether this requirement is able to make it or this requirement is really feasible. Of course, in the previous case we check a feasible, but may not be. The time may not permit him to really think about the complete feasibility of that. But in other aspects, he will verify the requirement is feasible or not, or the requirements are clear. Sometimes they have some vague requirement. You note it down, but later on, at the time of analysis, you came to know, okay, this requirement is not clear. So you need to have again one more session with that guy, the stakeholder, and clarify that. In sometimes, what's going to happen is one requirement. So the stakeholder 1 had given a requirement 1. And the stakeholder 3 had given a requirement 10, which is complete opposite to requirement 1, which is contradicting the requirement 1. So you will come to know these things at the time of analysis. And whenever you have this kind of contradiction, you go and set up a meeting with stakeholder 1 and 3 and just throw a question, okay, this is what you guys had told me before, and which one need to stay and which one need to be out. So let them take a decision on that, because they will have a decision. Okay, they will start and have a decision. So either 1 or 10 should be there. Okay, not like both. So they will take a decision. So it's a kind of ongoing process. Okay, so once the requirement gathering done, you perform the requirement analysis, and if you have questions, again you go back requirement presentation, because you set up a follow-up meeting, and this guys will give again some response. Give some more clarification. Again, you may come up with some more questions. So this requirement illustration analysis keeps happening. Okay, so in a circular manner. And once at some point, okay, all the requirements have been analyzed, seems like they are good to go. And once the requirements analysis is done, then formally you are creating a document which is nothing but a requirement specification. Okay, so you come up with the different, kind of a document here. And if you prepare the requirement specification, so requirement specification really talks about the different sets of requirements and what's the parent requirement and what is the child requirement of the parent. So they will have some kind of a format and they will prepare some documents. Okay, so they come up, they prepare software requirements. So they come with all that one as software requirement specification. Okay, or they can call the one as S or X, software requirement specification document. Okay, and next step would be requirement validation. Okay, so requirement specification means from the business analyst side, he assess some requirements, gather requirements, assess some requirements, he prepares some documents, and the next step would be that document needs to be reviewed. Some third person should review the document, okay, whether all the requirements are really clear. Okay, so the requirement validation is nothing but he will forward the document to the other people in the organization. So those folks can be your peer BA, or he can be the BA lead, who will be the lead for all the BAs, who can be the manager, who can be the directors, and who can be the stakeholders. Okay, so I can say stakeholder here, a business partner. Business partner is one stakeholder. Okay, so, or maybe sometimes the developers, okay, dev lead can review this document. So all the folks will review the document in requirement validation phase, and they officially they kick up. Okay, the document is done, okay, the SR document is fine, is formally completed. So you guys will start over the design of the application. So design of the application is done. Of course, next the technical people will hand over this document. I mean, they will take over this document and they will be trying to implement the system. Okay, and they try to develop the system using that, which is here that would be happen after requirements validation. So, but if you see here, there is a common thing which organize all these activities. This is called requirement management. Okay, so there would be requirement management is nothing but which manages all these phases or in kind of a thing. Okay, so we have different tools for requirement management, say relational repository, where you can manage all the requirements. Okay, note down the requirement, how this requirement will be connecting to the other requirement, and have the traceability. If sometimes, say like requirement 1 is dependent on requirement 2. So suddenly requirement 2 change, then obviously you need to point to requirement 1 and we need to update the requirement 1 accordingly. So if you really don't have that relation on, so if you don't have nowhere mention of the requirement 1 is dependent on requirement 2, so you, whenever there is change for requirement 2, just update the requirement 2 and leave the requirement 1 without any updation. So, but it's not the right way. So basically, there is a tool where there is a map traceability happens. So whenever this requirement changes, then it shows, okay, these are the dependent requirements on this requirement. Just have a view, and if required, go and update it. Okay, so which called requirements management. And one of the parts here is the change requirement. So suppose here, once you pass through from requirement station, analysis, requirement station, requirement validation, and your SRS is officially kicked off. Okay, but still there are so many requirements that will be changing because of so many external factors. Okay, maybe because of some external influences. Okay, maybe some political influence, which may change your requirement. Maybe previously the tax or slab would be different. Okay, now the tax slab is different because of change in the tax for the so-and-so state. So we need to update our system accordingly. So before that, definitely we should come up with the requirement. Okay, this is the new requirement. Previously the tax slab, which was supposed to be this much amount, okay, and the slab was different. Was different, and now the slabs are different. Okay, say suppose the people who are earning maybe less than 50K should be get this kind, should pay this much amount of state tax, and the people who are like 50 to 70 should pay this much amount of state tax. So later on they change the slab, so 0 to 50 has one slab and 50 to 60 has one slab. Okay, and 60 to 70 has one slab. Okay, so which is again a change happened here. So we need to update the existing requirement. So whenever there is a change happen, they come up with a change request. Okay, so there is official way of sending a change. Okay, this is we used to have a different slab. Okay, so there will be 50K. Previously we used to have 50 to 70K slab. Now it has been divided into 50K and 50K to 60K as one slab, and 60K to 70K as another slab. Okay, so we need to change the requirement. So to implement this requirement, so this much amount and this much effort should be required. Okay, so they will have a change request, and there will be something where they gather the requirement. Okay, they look at the change request and they will approve the change request. Approve in the sense they'll allocate budget. Okay, so we'll allocate budget for this change request, and then it will be routed to the design team. Of course, the business analyst will update his requirement specification document according to the changes. So this is kind of an umbrella that keeps happening. So it's not like in one project if they write down some requirements, it stays forever. Definitely there are n number of requirements keep changing. Okay, keep altering, or some requirements may be adding, some requirements may be deleted. So it's a kind of ongoing process. So there will be some platform tool that would be taking care of it. Okay, so that's it from the requirements engineering side. So as a business analyst, you would be working in this requirements engineering phase most of the time. Okay, so let's have a look at the core content that will be covered in this training. And of course, this course would be useful for you to prepare for IIBA certification. Okay, and this is how, this is what the course will cover. So introducing the business analysis, the role of the business analysis defined. So you will get a clear idea about the business analysis, and then of course, as per the life cycle basically, so how the business analysis would be performed across the life cycle. And the next would be the strategic planning. And in any strategy, so whenever the company is making like a planning for a strategy, so how the business analyst goal and role in that particular planning activity. And next would be enterprise analysis. Okay, and then requirement elicitation. So what are the different techniques that could be used in a requirement elicitation? As of now, we had discussed in a very high level, so we'll be discussing more details, different techniques, and the requirements analysis and elicitation. And we talked about the tool basically. So requirements management is a tool where, the relational repository is a tool which performs the requirements management. So we talked about the requirement management. So if you really see the hands-on on the relational repository, you will come to know how that particular tool will be handled. Okay, and as well as we will be discussing about different UML. So there are like different UML is a diagrammatic language, similar like a flowchart basically. So there are some shapes would be called as a UML. There's some specific shapes, and there are like some specific diagrams out there in the UML. Okay, each diagram has its own goal basically. And the next would be the requirements documentation, validation, and management. So obviously how to document requirement and validation basically and management. So basically it's part of requirements engineering. And discussing about the business solution delivery, operation and maintenance, and software engineering models. So this would be the PLC model, and then UML. So all the different diagrams in the UML, and introduction to software testing basically. Okay, so you'll be learning the testing also in this, because the BA role and testing or concept also work at some point. So you would be learning about the testing also. And then next would be and of course, as part of the testing, you will be learning the quality center. So quality center is a test management tool. So you will get a clear idea how how the entire testing process would be. Okay, so if you do the hands-on, it will be more clear for you, so that we can even appear some of the testing goals. Okay, so business analyst with some testing roles, or business quality analyst. There are different combinations with it. And you'll be learning the SQL. So SQL is being used for database interaction. So as a BA, if you know the SQL, that would be a plus for you. Okay, so on top of this, after the SQL, and you will be learning some domain questions basically. Okay, so you'll be learning the different domain questions. So one of it on the healthcare is one thing, and some insurance, especially auto insurance, and you'll be learning ERP domain. Okay, and of course this finance or financial or banking. Okay, so because when you are applying for a job, you need to have an idea about the different domains, because you are a business analyst, and business analyst should be pretty much clear about the different domains, because from the IT side, maybe it's not really that much how knowledge is required for a business analyst, but for the business side, if he is aware of, everyone expects like business analyst should aware of some business knowledge across the different domains, not like all domains. But some or even the business analyst can be categorized like insurance, CA. or healthcare BA. So if you know like couple domains, so definitely that will be really good to target while targeting job. Okay, so on top of that, there is a resume preparation. Okay, and of course I forgot to explain, like before that you would be working on a lot of assignments as well. Okay, so while performing business analyst, while creating a different diagram, so some of the assignments will be given to you, so you will be working on them. So we'll have a kind of an assessment, okay, how we perform the analysis. And finally, after the resume preparation, there will be some mock interview. So let's see how you will perform the mock interview. And after that, if you really required to have one more round of mock interview, that will be conducted. Okay, and there is a marketing team. Okay, so if it's kind of optional. So if trainee wants to search into the job market using this marketing team, so they would be really aggressive. The placements, and they have different clients across the nation. So they would be working on your resume on that. So this would be the entire BA business analyst section. So it's there like 30 plus hours, but it's just for 30 plus hours is for just a BA, but it really takes like 3 hours basically, because you will be learning some QA stuff and some management rules and some SQL. So obviously it will reach like 50 hours, and there is no compromise with the time, of course, until we achieve the quality. And the main intention should be, our goal would be that every training should be transformed as a BA. Okay, so we don't want to keep something like a partial knowledge. We want to give end-to-end knowledge, and we will try to justify our goal, which is transform to BA. So we'll stick to that, and of course the marketing team will help you out even in the job placement. Okay, so that's it that's it from my side as part of the demo, and see you guys. Bye-bye. And one more thing before signing off from this session. If you want really join into the course, and you need to navigate to the transformtoit.com and click on contact us section, and there is an enrollment form where you can fill up your details. Okay, and then you can submit. So this is the official way of enrolling into the course. Okay, so there are some options here, the payment options. You can use them out while enrolling. So this would be the official way of enrolling into the course. Okay. Thank you. Bye.